Hello everyone, this is Lena with Especially Made for Me. How are you? Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Today we're going to be doing a vlog. I wanted to do something different and start a series, I guess if I could say, for helping you to get to know me a little bit better and for me to share with you some of the things I enjoy doing, even here in my kitchen, which is where we're at today instead of our the craft room. So today I'm going to be showing how I make butter out of raw milk. I buy my raw milk from a homesteader who has her own cows. She gets it all filtered out and all that good stuff for me, and then I just bring the gallons over and do what I need to do from there. So I'm going to be showing you the process after that point, what I do with my milk to get the cream that I need to make the butter and make the butter here with you. I just had a few of my friends asked me about it and how I do that and all of that. And we tend to not be able to get together. Our schedules are so busy. And I thought, you know what? It would be good for me to record it. And maybe that way they can watch it at their leisure. And I thought might be good to share with you as well, just to kind of, like I said, just to for you to know a little something about me and something that I do. So my hope is to do like I said, a series, maybe do a vlog a month for this type of thing in the kitchen, where I could show you things based on what you would like to see. From raw milk, we can not just get our milk that we could drink, but we get the cream, of course, that we can make sour cream with. We can make our buttermilk. From there, we can, have our buttermilk to make biscuits and different breads and pancakes and so many different things. We can make yogurt. From there, we can make cheese. So I've been enjoying, since I found her, getting my raw milk. Normally, I would get an upset stomach with regular milk that I buy from the store. I would switch to soy milk and lactate and different type of things, oat milk and almond milk and all of that, just to try to do better. But it wasn't quite doing what I needed, and sometimes I would still get a stomach upset. So with the milk we get in the stores being pasteurized, and me being able, God blessing me to find this lady that has her homestead and has her own cows, I've been doing raw milk, and I can tell you it's been the best thing, because it's brought me back to being in Dominican Republic and getting the wonderful, yummy, good milk, and never had a stomach upset, and doing the things that I've been doing since then in my kitchen with that raw milk and everything we can get from it. So that's what we're working on today. We're going to do butter. So I have a few things here in front of me on my table, on my little dinette that I have in the kitchen. And I'm hoping I didn't forget to bring anything over. I just didn't want you to have to keep up with me going all throughout my kitchen and stuff. So I have, of course, you're going to need, unless you want to do it by hand with a whisk or a mixer kind of thing, you could get a blender. I do have one of those wonderful pro blenders, to make my protein shakes and smoothies with, but I found my old trusty Osterizer blender from umpteen years ago. Does very well. I don't have to worry about extra blades in different places and all of that good stuff, and it's perfect for the butter versus buying what usually homesteaders would use. They have this big jar, kind of like a big mason jar, and it's got a motor on top with just the one blade on the bottom to make the butter. But I've priced those, and I been keeping my eye on it. Don't think I really ever gonna get one, but they're over $200, almost $300 for a brand new one. So sticking with the blender, so you would need either, again, a mixer, hand mixer, use a whisk, or use a blender to be able to get that cream, the butter separated from the cream. Other than that, you're gonna need a bowl. I'm using a cold glass bowl. I had it in my fridge covered up just because the coldness will help once we get to that stage. But you can use a wooden bowl like you would use for a salad. My point for that, as always, I'm going to be giving you points and tips throughout. If you're going to use a wooden bowl, make sure that you only use it for making your butter, because the wood, my Spanish is kicking. The wood tends to absorb some of the flavor, the aromas, and different things. So you don't want your butter to have odd ends, smells and flavors. So unless you purposely want that, which you can definitely do that with butter. There's so many different things you can do. So that's why I use a glass one instead of using a wooden one, and I just put it in my refrigerator to make sure it's nice and cold. You will need a spatula. I have some bamboo spatulas that I use just for making my butter. You can use just one that I use. This is the one I use for getting it ready once we have it out of the blender. This is just for shaping, so you could use something like that as well. They have some like these that you can use as well. Normally I use this one just to get a little taste of something without putting the other two that I'm using for making the butter in it. So you also would need a ladle that will fit in the jar where you would actually have your cream. And I say that because normally when I get the raw milk, she puts them for us in these gallons, you know, like a gallon of milk. But it's plastic, of course. So as soon as I get it home, I switch it to glass. I put it in a big mason jar, and then I label it so I know that's the raw milk that I haven't taken any cream from. And that's what we're going to be working with today. So once it's in the refrigerator for about a day, you'll be able to see the cream start to separate. Let's see if I can if you can see that little line right about there. And that's what we're going to need, just that cream on top to make our butter. Now you can drink your milk with that all in it if you want. Make sure you would have to definitely shake it very well. It is not usually recommended to do it that way if you're not, especially if you're not used to it. Nothing wrong with it. You could definitely drink it that way. I just look at it as you would still have milk, have whole milk, even if you take most of that out and just leave a little bit. And then that way you could have your cream for making the butter or sour cream, and going through the different things that we can make. So that is that. So to show you, I've already taken some cream out and already have 2 quarts taken out, and I normally just label it. That's my butter cream for me to make butter. And I started on another, but I still need to fill it. So I have about 3 more jars of the quart jars, 2 quart jars, to get the cream from, to put into this other jar. So I'm gonna just do this part just so that you can see how I do. And we're actually going to be using this, the one that I already have taken out, so that we can make our butter today. But I want to show you the process, and then I can continue making the rest of my butter off camera. So I won't keep you for too long. But what I'm going to do is switch the view of the camera so that you'll be able to see my table. You'll be able to see me to the side of the camera as well. So I have the screen split up so you can still see me. But that way you can see what's going on at the table. You will also need some salt. I normally use about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt for the butter. Now with 2 quarts of cream, you can make about 1 pound of butter. So I normally use about a 1/4 teaspoon, and my husband has been fine with that. But the other day when we were talking, it's like, I do wish it was a little, you could feel the salt a little more. So normally if I'm not going to be storing it, I don't put much salt in it. I just do that 1/4 teaspoon. To me, it's perfectly fine, but you can add a little bit more, especially if you're going to be storing it. Now for storing, I'll show you later. If you're not going to be storing it at a room that's just cold and putting it in one of the, can't think of the word right now. It's made out of ceramic and it's very thick, and it could stay cold. You could put it in there and cover very well, and things can stay. I can't think of the word. I don't know why, but it'll come to me. But if you're going to be storing it that way in a separate room where it's not going to be in a heated area, definitely add a little bit more of salt, depending on how much butter you might have. Maybe do a half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon, depending on how much butter you're going to have. The other thing you would need is some water. We're going to need to add some water as we go, as we empty out the butter, the buttermilk, we're going to need to add a little bit of butter. And that's how we'll get our buttermilk. And then we're going to have some wash. So I'm saying all of that, and it might sound all crazy, but please stay with me because I'm going to show you step by step. Just want to make sure you know what we're going to need. As far as the water goes, I don't like using it straight from the sink unless you have a special filter with your sink or on your sink that might filter out most, if not all, of the chlorine and all of that good stuff. You could definitely go that route. I have a special filter, kind of like a Berkey. Mine it's called Alexa Pure, and it takes pretty much all of the stuff out of it. So I just put it in jars here, so we'll be able to use that instead of me having to walk over to my filter. So that's what these other bottles are. It's just extra water. You will need another jar or bottle to pour out your buttermilk into, because you will get buttermilk from making the butter. So then you need something else to put that buttermilk into. Once we add the first set of water, we're going to go ahead and run it through again. And that water you could add to your buttermilk. But after that, any other water we use, if we need to add more water, we will not mix it with our buttermilk. We will just call that what we call wash. And that can be in a separate container, that wash. If you have, let's say if you're starting out with chickens or you have some pigs at home, they would love that. So you can definitely give that to them. But again, just tips as we go. Do ask me some questions. Make sure you have some comments. Let me know where you're watching from, so we can keep up with you. See where you're at. Would like to kind of keep an eye out as to where are people watching my videos from. But that's what we would need. I have a separate bowl here that I normally wouldn't use, and it's for once if I do have the little drips from the bowl as we're shaping our butter and getting it seasoned. There's little bits of water. You can dump that into your wash water if you have room, and if not, you can dump it into the sink. That's why I have an extra bowl, but it's not normally necessary. So without further ado, hopefully I did not speak too fast. If I did, because I know my Spanglish gets in and I start sounding like Speedy Gonzalez, please ask me questions. I'll be sure to keep up with that to make sure I answer your questions, hopefully timely. But let me go ahead and change the camera view. You'll still see me, but you'll see also the table. Just kind of look here on my screen. There we go. So you can see all of this stuff here. So I mentioned the buttercream, my raw milk that I have in the 2-quart jar. Didn't mean to shake that, sorry. This is the bowl we're going to be using for the butter itself, so that we can get it seasoned. And then of course the water, and I just have some extra jars here just in case I need some of course for the buttermilk and the wash if we end up having some of that. The salt I normally would use like sea salt, Redmond sea salt. I didn't have any out already, so I'm using the Himalayan pink salt. That's usually my backup. I stopped using regular sea salt out there because there's so much that's been put into our waters that I figured every little bit that I do will count, even though I'm not doing 100% everything natural and, going crazy with it, if I can say it that way. Some people kind of look at me like, what? You what? Like, no, I don't do that. No, I don't take picnic. I don't do that. No, I don't. Just doing my best, but I don't do everything 100%. Okay, so next thing we're going to need to do, the first thing, your ladle. That will be the first thing we're going to be using, so that we can get our cream from our raw milk out into our container that we're going to be saving it until we have enough to make butter. In this case, I already have one already full, so we're going to be using the other one, but I want to make sure that I show you the process. So your ladle, it's better if it's wet. I just put this on the wrong bowl. It actually helps that cream to stick to the ladle if it's wet. Okay, so I'm just going to get this water out because that's what we're going to do our butter. That was just the closest thing to me. Okay, so let's see, how am I going to show you this a little bit better so you can see. See if I can get it to the camera here. Okay, so can we see that cream? So I'm going to try to, let me see if I can do it backwards so you can see it. See how it kind of just kind of goes in and then sink in as you turn it? And then all you'll get is cream. The milk will stay on the bottom. And then just empty your cream onto your jar. I'm going to do that one more time, holding it this way. I'm going to try to. Okay, so go in a little bit and start going down and putting it upward. Just to basically skimming your milk. That's what we're doing. Okay. And we're going to do that until almost all the cream is gone. And you'll be able to tell on the cream. I showed you the line earlier where we're at with the cream. And as you pull more, of course, that line will be further up. It's okay to leave a little bit of that cream. That just kind of gives it more of that creaminess to the milk. But we normally take most of it out here. But again, nothing wrong with keeping it in there. I know some that don't take the cream out. They just drink the milk straight up. And you're going to be so surprised as to how easy it is to make butter. And I know they have so many recipes out there, and they mention, getting cream from the store and this and that and the other, but I just find this is so much better. Tastes so much better when you're using the raw milk. But that's just me. Of course, you do your own research and all of that good stuff. And start out slowly if you're not 100% sure, So now I'm starting to see when I go in some of that milk. So I'm just going lightly towards the edges. And just to give it a little bit more of a skim. And we say skim, we're getting that cream out. But it doesn't taste like skim milk from the store. It's still nice and creamy. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't. To me, it tastes very sweet. That's another thing that I like from it when we're drinking the milk. I've been drinking at least 1 cup a day, just straight. Not because of tea or coffee or cereal and whatnot. And I can tell it's such a big difference. Another thing to take note of, I guess, with raw milk, it's just as God intended us to drink it, right? So it's got all of the probiotics, prebiotics in there already. So you don't have to buy something to get the probiotics and prebiotics, no, special powders or pills and all of that stuff when you're drinking this milk, because it already has that. So that's another one of the great benefits. And then if you're like me, trying to do better as to what we eat and drink, not pasteurized, so it hasn't been processed and gone through all the rigmarole. And then I also think of, when they have these milk factories, they have the hoses and such attached to the cows to pull the milk, whereas if you're doing it from home, if you have a cow, which hopefully I will one day, at least one, to do my own milk, then you can do it by hand. So this is the milk now, and you can see very, very little of that cream left. You can leave a little bit more, but I found that this is just perfect for us. And then you can put this in a container that you would like to use just for drinking. Again, just give it a shake and then drink. Because you still have some of that cream in there, you want that to disperse. But then this is perfectly for drinking. So I'm going to go off camera for a little bit because I want to put this in the cooler. And I'll be right back. So this is the buttercream I had already pulled or skimmed from the raw milk. and the one that we're going to be using for making our butter today. So because this blender is a little, per se, small, not that it's small, but it's a regular size, all of this will not fit in there without it overflowing. So I normally do about half, prep that, go through the process, get it into the bowl, do all of the process that I'm going to show you, and then I do the other half. So for time purposes, I'm only going to do the first half just so I can show you what it would look like. And then hopefully you'll try making butter yourself. But here we go. Okay. So this is it. Not just kidding. But really, it's pretty easy. Within 15 minutes, I mean, it has some prep work to do, but with about 15 minutes, you're done and you have butter. So we're going to go ahead and click on our blender. I do have it on high, and I just kind of start slow from the first one to get to like blending, and then I increase. The faster it goes, of course, the faster it'll separate, and you just leave it running until you can see that butter separating. And then we're going to get to that next stage. So I'm going to turn that on, let it do what it do, and we'll be back. All right. We are at maybe 10 minutes of having this on. And you can see some of the, see if I can get it closer to the camera, some of those curds from the butter. I can call them curds. Some of your butter on the lid. And I'll show you here on the inside the blender. Okay. So you have this creamy butter starting to form. So the more it's blended, and of course try to make sure you have your milk really nice and cold, so then it'll separate a lot better. You'll have even bigger chunks of butter. You can see how creamy it is as of right now. I'm gonna go ahead and blend it a little bit longer because we want to make sure it separates from the milk. That way we can have our buttermilk. Usually it takes about 15 minutes of blending. Okay. So we'll get this started and we'll be right back. And this is when we use our cold water, preferably one that's doesn't have any chlorine. And we're basically, you can think of it that way, we're rinsing it out, is what we're doing. And I should have actually had this water in the refrigerator while we were getting our butter ready, because it makes it better, easier to get it all separated. But here we go. It should only take about a minute or two. I'm going to start. And you can still see the nice yellow. Let's see. Trying to make sure I show you on the camera. Maybe I can show you on this one, maybe. There we go. You can see that butter. Nice and yellow. I'm gonna try to just hold it this time. And since this is our first, as we say, wash, we can put it with our buttermilk. And we're going to do that 1 to 2 more times, just to make sure that there's no more milk in it. And you'll be able to tell that water should be mostly clear. If it's looking more like milk, then we still need to do that again. So we're going to do that 1 to 2 more times, depending on what it takes, and then we'll be right back. All right, we are back. We did the second batch of the cream to get our butter, and I just did the wash. I wanted to make sure I did that so it'll be less time for you to be watching, but I want you to see what it looks like. So I'm hoping, see if maybe I can come a little bit closer on this side. There we go. You can see the butter formed. So the wash, basically, this is for me easier. You can use the strainer if you like, but I just kind of hold it back and then strain that liquid, in this case the wash, because it's no longer the buttermilk. I'm going to go ahead and get this part out to make it easier and put it in our bowl. And there's still some more of that wash in there, and I'll show you what the difference is with the actual buttermilk and the wash. So then we just got to get our butter out of our blender. Okay, let's hold it the other way. Maybe then we can see a little bit better. So this is what I was talking about when it comes time to getting your butter out of your whatever you're using for blending. If it's something that has a small mouth, makes it a little bit difficult to get it all out. But doing it this way, I know it's a blender, to me makes a big difference. Okay, so see if I can get these in order so you can see what the difference is. So I mentioned earlier that we have the buttermilk is the first batch of liquid when we're blending our cream. Okay, so this is where I put it at. So this is actual buttermilk that we can use for our baking, for making biscuits or pancakes or, you know, breads, whatever kind of baking. And I had that jar in this jar. I left this one open since this was the second one I filled, so I can show you a little bit better on this other camera. You can see some of that butter fat still remaining. So this is still our buttermilk. So depending on if you know you're going to be doing a lot of baking or maybe not doing so much baking, you could also use smaller containers for your buttermilk, and then maybe freeze it if you're not going to be ready for using all of that buttermilk at once. This is just from, again, the 2-quart container of the buttercream, which is what we skimmed off of the raw milk at the beginning. So it's from 2 quarts, you get all of this buttermilk, and then you have, I just put it in, this is the first wash, which you can mix with your buttermilk, okay? And then this is the second wash. You can see it's a much lighter, and you could do it again, do another wash if you like to get this even clearer, but it's really not necessary. It depends on you, what your preference is. So this is the part that I said that can go, and even the first wash if you don't want to mix it. If you have chickens, if you have pigs, they would definitely love it. So nothing goes to waste. So from here, my friends, comes the fun part. This is all of the butter that we got from those 2 quarts. And you can see it doesn't have, it's all like little curds. So now what we need to do is get it ready, molded and seasoned and all of that good stuff. So the first thing we want to do, I'm going to switch my spatulas. I like this longer one that's flatter and long. We're going to squeeze out any leftover wash that may be in our butter. The more of that we get out, the better. So if we ever do melt our butter, you won't have that, I guess, that wash, that milky wash on the side of it. It would just be strictly butter. So you can already see some of it has strained from it. I don't have it. Let's see. Do I have one more room in one of these? I'll try to strain it. There we go. So I can show you what it looks like as we get the rest of it out. Just making sure we don't have any small pieces that might fall. And we're just going to continue to strain those fluids out. So this is all we do. We hold our bowl. Hopefully it's nice and cold to help it shape the butter. And you're just going to squeeze or mush down. And you can see already there's some more of that wash coming. So you won't stir. You won't whip. You're going to be folding it onto itself and squeezing. You're going to grab it and squeeze. And you can see some of that hopefully coming out. I'm going to get a little bit more over this way here. Every time that you give it a little squeeze, some of that continues to come out. I'll show you a little bit closer. Okay. So we're going to grab and fold it over. And we're going to continue to do that until we get as much of that as possible out. And just keep spraining it. And you'll be able to tell the butter takes a different texture once most of that is out. It'll be a little bit softer looking. You won't see so much of the curd division. So this serves, it's multi-purpose. To get that fluid out, that wash, as we call it, and to shape our butter. I'm just thinning it out again so I can fold it over. You can spread it some more. And no big if you don't get to take it all out. Just remember that once you melt your butter, if you need to melt it for any recipes, you'll see some of that wash, which is no big deal. You know where it comes from, right? Unlike when we do it from the stores, you will see a whole bunch of oils and everything separates and different things like that. With this homemade butter, you won't see any of that. There won't be any, per se, separation. Even when I make garlic butter, it stays good. So, one good thing to know about natural butter. Natural butter, once you put it in the refrigerator, when you have natural homemade butter like this with the raw milk, the way it's meant to be, if you put it in the fridge, it's not going to be an easy spreadable butter. It's not going to be very spreadable. It gets really hard in the refrigerator, almost like it's frozen, even though it's not frozen. That's normal for natural butter. So to have spreadable butter, if you are, if you and your family like to, have some butter on toast in the morning, or, to put on something and you need for it to be spreadable, there's a couple of things you can do. But of course, you can take it out the day before, but you don't want to be doing that if your house is pretty warm. I'll show you what I use. I think I'm going to be pretty done here because it's pretty, since the bowl is pretty cold, it's already shaping very nicely. Okay, so I'll show you what I do with my butter that I want to have readily accessible for spreading after we're done with the next step. The next and final step really is getting our butter seasoned. So this helps to preserve it, but it also gives it, that little bit, it makes that flavor pop out. So I mentioned earlier that we do about 1/4 teaspoon. Now this is about a pound of butter, so we may need to do that twice, do 1/2 teaspoon for my hubby's sake, because I know we talked about that the other day, and he would prefer for it to have a little bit more salt. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. But with this grinder, I know doing 5 times gives me 1/4 teaspoon. So I'm gonna do that. And then we're gonna do it a second time once we fold it in. So the same way for getting that butter in there, we're gonna just fold it in to itself. And this will also help with any other bit of that wash that might still be on there. And I mentioned you could also do sea salt. I do the Redmond sea salt. I don't like too much of the regular salt, sea salt. But any salt that you're comfortable with. I keep putting my head down so I can see what I'm doing. I keep forgetting you're seeing like the top of my head. Sorry about that. But you use the butter that you feel comfortable with, of course. Just seeing some more of that wash coming out. So I'm just making sure I get it down there. It just drips on off. Hope you're enjoying this. If you are, please give us a thumbs up. Let me know if you'd like to see any other steps of processing using your raw milk. If I know the process, I will definitely share it with you. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this wash here. Got quite a bit more. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my next little bit of salt, but I like to always give it a little taste. To me, that's yummy. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit more salt. And again, I would do just 1/4 teaspoon at a time and taste this, see if you like it. It does help with preserving your butter if you're going to be leaving it out of the freezer. Now, if you feel some of the little grains from the salt that you're putting in, don't worry, the butter will absorb it, even if you don't feel it all fully absorbed while you're doing this. The main thing is getting as much of that wash out, that water, letting it drip away from the butter. That'll give you less if you do melt your butter, which is no big deal. You'll be able to just strain it off as well. Okay. So we're done with seasoning our butter. And this is what I was mentioning earlier. There's an option if you need to have spreadable butter. You can use one of these. So you can get these on Amazon. Just a little butter churn. I think is what they call it. But there's our butter, all nice and blue. You put a little bit of water in here. You have the instructions on the container, and it preserves your water. You just change that water every couple of days or so, depending on how often you use it. The more you use it, they recommend that you change it more. The average is about every 4 days. And it just kind of keeps it preserved, and that way it's nice and spreadable. So you do a little bit at a time. Just kind of melt it enough to where you can shape it on there if you're not doing it right after you make it. And then you'll have spreadable butter. Other than that, you will have to take it out of your freezer the day before, put it in the fridge, and then kind of leave it out on the counter for a little bit, or melt it down and then put it onto something that you can leave out. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just preparing for storing this butter, because we already have our little containers on the table and on the countertop in our kitchen. I have 2 of them for butter use. So what I'm going to do with this is actually freeze it. So I want to show you how I actually get it packed up and ready for the freezer. I use parchment paper. And you can decide what amount you want to save. I normally just kind of split this into half. And shape it into like a, you could shape it into like a bowl or an oval. You decide. That gives me about ½ pound of the butter. So I try to do them about equal amounts. That way I know what I have available, or what I have stored, preserved. Okay, let's see that, okay? So then I just wrap it from there. Yeah, and you can decide how you want to do this. A video I've watched, they did it this way, it's like, oh, I kind of like that. Just kind of pushes your butter in. You can fold it. You want to make sure that it's, so you can do different things. But okay, and then I put it in a Ziploc, and I do my next one. And then, of course, the Ziploc bag will label it. homemade butter, and then the date, which I'm not sure what the date is. I'm going to leave that for later. I think it's the 12th or the 11th. 11th. So that's all I do. Homemade butter and the date. Okay. I'm going to do the next one. And I like doing this. I mentioned the video I was watching with someone was wrapping their butter, their homemade butter, and they mentioned about the parchment paper, and I thought that's a great idea. That way it's not touching plastic. You know, these days with the plastic, you just never know if it's got, you know, with the chemicals and everything else that, you know, going on. And so this might be one way that we can put it there in the freezer and not have to worry about plastic. Of course, you can put it in different containers and freeze it, like glass containers, I mean. Right. And this helps me too when I put them in the freezer, since I can see how many I have in the wrapped in the parchment paper. I can count them and see how much I have left. You know, I can see by quantity, but also now, okay, I have 2 pounds left. So again, you can go flat if you're concerned about it getting wrapped up in the, or you can go ahead and turn it. Either or works very well. And then this is ready for the freezer if you already have some already in your fridge or on your counter. You're going to be using the spreadable option. Maybe a little bit of both, right? So I just take the air out. If I'm not going to make any more, that's all that's going to be in the bag. Makes it easier for storing. And then this goes in the freezer. And I'll have 2 portions. So that is it. Really, it's not difficult. The prep time, you know, to make sure you have all of your things together may take a little bit longer. And if you have a big enough blender, if you're going to be using the blender method, like I did, you may be able to, instead of splitting it into 2 batches like I did, do it all at once. So then instead of, excuse me, it taking you maybe half an hour, it'll just take you the 12 to 15 minutes that it probably takes for making it. But that's really it. Easy and simple. And then you have homemade natural butter that you can use. So I hope you enjoyed making some butter with me with some raw milk. And if you have any questions, make sure you type any questions on the comments and I'll be sure to get to those. And then we'll be looking forward. Hopefully you'll be able to join us next time. We are actually on YouTube every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're hoping to maybe change that to have it maybe twice a week, but for now it's only on Fridays. And also let us know how you like this vlog, this something different for you to get to know a little bit about me and things that I like. We're going to hopefully do this maybe once a month. So if there's anything else you would like to see, maybe even continuing on from the, you know, from making the butter to maybe using the buttermilk or something like that, or just maybe because you might be aware of me having my little garden, maybe want to check those out, or some fruits or vegetables that I may have in the garden, or things that I do, or just even things here at home. So hopefully this has blessed you from my home to yours. Until next time, stay safe, stay liquid. Bye bye.